branching back to what you said about Dempsey, even whenever Dempsey is pushed away from left mid, it seems that he's, rather than playing more of a number 10 role or just a creative type midfielder type role, I mean he's played really more as a second striker to Josie to an extent, and they've excelled with that positioning. I don't know if he would actually fill that role if, say, hey, this is what you're going to play, but at some points where he's checking back to the ball, and some points where he's higher up than Josie is. So,
yeah. And I think we're also looking at an evolution with the number of players in that position. That the evolution of our system, I think, will have to change. Maybe from a 4-4-2 to a 4-2-3-1. It just gives you more of those quality players on the field at one time. So that's another probably thing to consider for Bob and the national team.
Yeah, and we've seen that from Bob. Bob tried the 4-2-3-1, and before that it was kind of a 4-5-1. And my only problem with the 4-2-3-1, Jeff, and maybe you can enlighten me on this, but my problem with it over the years, especially for the American team, when our positives, our best positives are our speed on the wing and our athleticism, is that when you play a 4-2-3-1, it kind of shrinks the field a little for a lot of people, and you have to tend to play more centrally and more down the middle of the field. You see guys like Shea, they're never on the wings. They're always checking in, and they're always cutting in and pinching in, and so maybe that's my only issue with playing a 4-2-3-1.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's really down to personnel and how you play that 4-2-3-1, because if you look at it in ways that some of the top teams do it, it almost looks like a 4-3-3 at times, with two wide wingers really getting forward and stretching the back line. When you don't have that, you have a much more defensive shape, and you cut the field, as you said, and make it a much smaller field, and that's not what you're really trying to do. Especially when you're on the ball, you want to open up the field and make it as big as possible, and right. Conversely on the defensive side. So a lot of that 4-2-3-1 does really depend on those outside midfielders, sort of slash wingers.
Yeah, and they need to stay out wide. And I guess my issue so far with Bob's 4-2-3-1 and his 4-5-1 is that it's a massive pinching in process from the wingers. You can never really take advantage of a sudden change of field and make a run down the line. You're going to have to rely on your left back and your right back to do that. And when that happens, you kind of lose the speed and the athleticism that the U.S. can bring to the field.
Yeah, and if you look at guys, in the past where guys like Kobe Jones or Ernie Stewart or even Landon, a few years ago, who had the ability just to beat guys and get end line. That is a very difficult task and a very difficult skill, and I just don't see that from some of the players that we have, and that has to be factored into the system, of course, because when you do have guys who like to pinch in, as you mentioned with Salinas and Shea, who sometimes comes inside because they feel more comfortable being able to combine, it does take something away from your ability to stretch teams out wide.
Yeah. My big concern with the 4-2-3-1 is we haven't really had a true target striker since Brian McBride.
That's true.
We have Josie Altidore who can play a target striker, but he's not necessarily a target striker. When he was with the Red Bulls, he played more off of Juan Pablo, and he made the runs and cuts that he needed to off of him, and he was successful at it. But then he got brought over to Europe. He had loaned out to Hull, where he played the target striker. He's improved his game, but he's not quite the target striker that we need to focus on a 4-2-3-1.
Right, and a lot of that sort of point position up front does depend on a guy being able to keep the ball for you and bring the midfield into play, being able to distribute. If you look at a guy like Drogba, for example, he's a phenomenal holding or target player, and that's sort of what you're looking for in that position. And I think Josie's got some of those tools, but they still have to be developed in that position. He's still a young 20, 21-year-old right now, who's still learning that position.
Yeah. Well, final question, Jeff, because we don't want to hold you anymore, and our time is up. But final question: you came back from Germany. I think you were at time with Wehen Wiesbaden, if I remember correctly.
Right.
But you came back and you worked as an assistant coach with Bruce Arena at Virginia, and you didn't play for a whole year, but you did. I'm asking, did you enjoy coaching at that time, and do you see yourself at some point in the future managing or getting more involved in the coaching aspects?
I really did enjoy my time at Virginia under Bruce. I learned quite a bit, obviously, from Bruce. I mean, he's I think one of the top coaches in this country, and just to be able to be around him in that capacity was just a thrill. In terms of going forward, you never say never to anything. I think with the right situation, I'd love to look at a coaching position, but I sort of I've gone a different route and more into management. But if something would come along that makes sense, of course, I would certainly look at it. I hold an A license for a USSF A license, so you never know. You always want to leave the possibilities open.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we certainly hope to see you, and we know we will, because obviously you're doing a great job at New York and bringing some great players in, and we certainly wish you guys the best as the season unfolds. Not long from now, we have one of the shortest off seasons, so that's the great thing about MLS. It's never gone for too long. But we hope to have you back and tell us a little bit more as the season goes on this year. And thanks for stopping by.
Well, I appreciate you guys having me on. It's always great to talk soccer, and I'd love to have more programs like yours around the United States. So I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with me.
Thanks a lot, Jeff.